Welcome to Afterlife Message, where we explore incredible stories of second chances, the afterlife, and the mysteries beyond. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and click the bell icon so you never miss a moment of these fascinating journeys. Let us begin the discussion.
Okay, so get this right. We're diving into someone's story about dying and going to heaven.
Wow.
Yeah, let's talk about like a story that really makes you think. We're going to be exploring the experience of this guy named Tom Baines,
Okay.
who says that he actually died during a medical procedure, like back in 2006.
Oh, wow.
And he believes he got a firsthand look at the afterlife.
I mean, it's always so fascinating to delve into these, near-death experiences.
Yeah.
NDEs, as they're called. It's something that I think is sort of a big, scary unknown for a lot of people.
Right.
But these accounts, I think, offer like a different perspective on it.
Totally. And Tom's story is particularly, I think, interesting.
Yeah.
Before this whole experience, he had a pretty normal life, working in the court system. Then boom, this routine procedure goes wrong and he finds himself on a trip to heaven.
Yeah.
And it really makes you wonder what happens when we die, right?
Yeah, it really does make you think about that. And one of the things that struck me about Tom's account was how he describes the dying process itself.
Yeah.
It wasn't, this kind of slow fading away. He talks about leaving his body and then being propelled like so quickly through the hospital and then, up through the sky and even into outer space. It's like this incredible speed. Yeah, it's like this rapid, zoom out kind of.
His consciousness just like zoomed out of there. That's wild.
Yeah, it's really something.
And what's really interesting too is that he said he wasn't afraid at all.
Right. He
He was actually excited. Like he was anticipating going to heaven, which is, I think, pretty interesting, right?
Yeah, that lack of fear, I think, is something that you see often in a lot of these NDEs.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, I think, speaks to like a shift in perspective. When faced with death, I think that a lot of people just sort of report this kind of sense of calm and peace. Like they're shedding these earthly worries.
It's like all of a sudden, like you were saying, those everyday things just don't matter anymore.
Yeah.
So he's rocketing through the cosmos and then he arrives in heaven. And the way that he describes it, it's this incredibly welcoming place.
Wow.
He talks about this overwhelming feeling of peace and this beautiful atmosphere and a feeling of truly fitting in, like he belonged there.
That sense of belonging, I think, is just so powerful.
Yeah.
It really, makes you think about that innate human need for acceptance and connection. It's like, in that moment, he just found this place where he was just completely understood and embraced.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the feeling; it was the visuals too. He mentions this window of light, which is interesting.
Yeah,
because you usually hear about the tunnel of light, right?
Yeah,
in these NDE stories.
It's true. The imagery, it really does. It varies, from person to person, and I think that really underscores how much of these experiences are filtered through, their own perception and their own beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of reminds us that we're dealing with subjective interpretations and not necessarily some kind of universal blueprint of what the afterlife is.
So he steps through this window of light, and there he is, in heaven. And like many who describe similar experiences, the first thing he wants is to see Jesus.
Okay.
He talks about this deep longing to come face to face with Christ.
I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? When you think about it, in moments of like existential crisis, like facing death, people, a lot of times will turn to a higher power, seeking, comfort and understanding and maybe even a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
And for Tom, that higher power was Jesus. Right.
And when he finally sees Jesus, he's overwhelmed with gratitude. He drops to his knees and just pours out his thanks for Jesus' sacrifice.
That intense gratitude, it's such a powerful expression,
Yeah.
of that human need to acknowledge something greater than ourselves, especially when we're confronted with our own mortality. It's like in that moment, he fully understood the magnitude of what he believed Jesus did for humanity.
Yeah, and here's where it gets really interesting. He doesn't just see Jesus, but he feels this immense love emanating from him,
Yeah.
specifically from his feet.
Now that's an image that really sticks with you, right?
I know.
You know, the feet, which are so often associated with humility and service, they become like this conduit for divine love. It's a very personal, almost tangible way of experiencing that connection. What do you make of that?
It's fascinating. It's like he's saying that true love, the kind that comes from a divine source, is grounded in humility and service.
Right.
And he even describes this love as feeling tailor-made for him. Like it was designed specifically for his soul.
That really speaks to that idea of God's love as individualized, right? Like it's not a one size fits all.
Yeah.
But a unique expression that's tailored to each individual's needs and their experiences.
Okay, but here's another detail that I thought was really interesting. He said that communication in heaven wasn't like talking here on earth.
Okay.
He communicated with Jesus through thought. And it was instant.
Wow.
And incredibly intimate.
That's fascinating, Yeah. Imagine a world or a place, or existence, I guess, without words.
Right.
That type of nonverbal communication just suggests such a different level of understanding that transcends, just basic language. It's maybe a higher form of consciousness, or a deeper spiritual connection. What do you think?
It really makes you wonder what we're capable of, beyond our everyday understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And through this thought connection, he said he had this profound realization that God truly desires everyone to be in heaven.
That's a really powerful message. And, for some, I think a challenging one. It really challenges that idea of a judgmental God who chooses favorites.
Right.
And instead presents a God that's all loving and just wants the best for everyone.
Yeah, it really flips the script on the whole like fire and brimstone type of theology, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like he's saying that divine acceptance is so much more expansive than we imagine.
Than we might imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's having this incredible experience, basking in this love, learning all these things.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the catch. He doesn't get to stay in heaven forever.
Oh.
At least not this time.
That's where it gets complex, I think, with these NDEs, right?
Right.
There's this pull, I think, between the serenity of the afterlife.
And then the responsibilities that we have here. It's like being caught between two worlds.
And it wasn't just a one-time thing either. He describes being sent back to his body 3 separate times.
Oh, wow.
And each time, he was reluctant to leave that piece of heaven behind.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine being given a glimpse of eternity?
Right.
Experiencing that kind of profound peace and then being like pulled back, to this world of time and consequence?
It's heavy.
Yeah, it really speaks to, I think, that enduring strength of our earthly connections and the power of purpose, even in the face of, something so extraordinary.
It really does.
Yeah.
And during one of these returns, he describes encountering generations of his family in heaven.
Oh.
It wasn't just his parents or his grandparents. It was like his whole family tree was there, all just like radiating joy and happiness. He really emphasized the sense of family unity. Like it was a core aspect of heaven. That resonates with something I think so deep within us, don't you think?
Totally.
This yearning for connection and belonging.
Right.
That even extends, into the afterlife. It really speaks to that power of those bonds, regardless of culture or belief system.
It's like even in this realm beyond our understanding.
Yeah.
Those ties still matter.
Absolutely.
But here's where it gets really thought-provoking. He saw people in heaven that he didn't expect to be there. People that he had judged during his life.
Oh, wow.
People he thought wouldn't, make the cut, so to speak.
That's a powerful challenge to our assumptions about divine judgment, isn't it?
Right.
It makes you question our human tendency, to categorize people as worthy or unworthy. Like, what if God's grace is just so much more expansive than we can even comprehend?
It's almost like he's saying, who are we to decide who deserves heaven?
Right.
It's a humbling thought for sure.
It certainly is. And, it reminds us that our limited perspective can sometimes cloud our understanding of a larger, more compassionate truth.
Yeah.
It invites us to maybe reconsider those judgments and embrace that possibility
Right.
of a more inclusive and all-encompassing love.
Okay, so after this third visit, he's finally back in his body for good.
Okay.
But he's not the same man who left. He talks about seeing life from an eternal perspective.
Oh.
He's no longer attached to, material possessions or these, worldly concerns.
That shift in perspective, it's a common thread,
Yeah.
I think, in so many of these NDE accounts. It's like they've glimpsed something so profound.
Yeah.
So vast.
Right.
That the everyday worries and the material pursuits just kind of pale in comparison.
Right.
It prompts this reassessment, of your priorities, a focus on deeper meaning and values.
Yeah, it's like he's saying, okay, I've seen what really matters now.
Right.
And all this stuff down here.
Right.
It's just not that important anymore. But as you might imagine, this transformation wasn't without its challenges.
Oh, okay.
He mentions that he and his wife, they had to rebuild their relationship
Wow.
almost from scratch.
That's a good reminder that even, these extraordinary spiritual experiences
Yeah.
can have very real down-to-earth consequences.
Right.
It really highlights the ripple effect
Yeah.
of these events, not just on the person,
Right.
but also their relationships as well. It's like they're both navigating this uncharted territory.
Right. Exactly.
Trying to, reconcile their old life
Right.
with this new perspective.
It makes you realize that profound change, even positive change, can be really disruptive, and it requires adaptation and understanding from everyone involved.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and it really underscores that interplay between the spiritual and the mundane, right? Even when we touch the infinite, we still have to come back to this earthly reality and figure out how to integrate those experiences.
So we've journeyed with Tom through, his experience of dying, arriving in heaven, encountering Jesus, even meeting his family in the afterlife.
It's amazing.
It's been a wild ride, to say the least.
And his story raises so many fascinating questions.
It does, yeah.
How do these experiences shape our understanding of life and death and the nature of consciousness?
Right.
What can we learn from those who claim to have ventured beyond the veil?
Right.
And how can those insights inform our own lives?
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, if you were in Tom's shoes, what would you bring back from an experience like that?
Right.
What message would you feel compelled to share with the world?
Those are great questions to ask ourselves, I think.
Yeah.
What message, would it be a message of love?
Right.
Forgiveness, compassion, or maybe a message about living a life of purpose and meaning?
And maybe the most important takeaway from all of this
isn't
about knowing for sure what happens after we die.
Right.
But about how we choose to live our lives right now.
I think you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Tom's story and countless others like it, they really invite us to consider what truly matters. It's this reminder to cherish our loved ones, to make the most of our time,
right,
and to live in a way that reflects our values and our aspirations.
So even if we never have a near-death experience ourselves,
right,
we can still learn from those who have.
Right.
And we can use those insights to guide our own journeys.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe by exploring these stories, by contemplating these big questions, we gain a deeper understanding of ourselves.
Our place in the universe.
Yeah.
And that incredible potential of the human spirit.
Beautifully said. And that's a wrap on our deep dive into one man's extraordinary journey to heaven and back. We hope this conversation has sparked your curiosity and left you with some food for thought. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's almost like he's, caught in this cosmic tug of war,
right,
drawn to the peace of heaven, but also sensing that his time on earth isn't over yet.
Yeah. And during one of these returns, he describes encountering generations of his family in heaven.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't just like his parents or his grandparents. Yeah. It was like his entire family tree was there.
Wow.
All just radiating joy and happiness. And he really emphasized this sense of family unity. Mm-hmm. Like it was like a core aspect of heaven.
That really resonates with something I think very deep within us.
Yeah.
Don't you think? Okay. It's this yearning for connection and this yearning for belonging.
Right. That even extends into the afterlife.
Right.
And it really speaks to that enduring power of those family bonds.
Yeah.
Regardless of, our culture or our belief system.
Yeah, it's like, even in this realm, beyond our understanding,
Right.
those ties still matter.
Absolutely.
But here's where it gets, I think, really thought-provoking.
Yeah, okay.
He saw people in heaven that he didn't expect to be there.
Oh.
People that he had judged during his life.
Wow.
People that he thought, wouldn't make the cut, so to speak.
That's a powerful challenge to our assumptions.
Right.
About divine judgment, right?
Totally, yeah.
It makes you question our human tendency to categorize people,
Right.
as worthy or unworthy.
Right.
What if God's grace is just so much bigger than we can even comprehend?
It's almost like he's saying, who are we to decide who deserves heaven?
Right.
It's a very humbling thought for sure.
It certainly is. And, I think it also reminds us that our limited perspective can sometimes cloud our understanding of a larger, more compassionate truth.
Right.
And I think it invites us to maybe reconsider those judgments and embrace the possibility of a more inclusive and all-encompassing love.
Okay, so after this third visit, he's finally back in his body for good.
Okay.
But he's not the same man that left.
Yeah.
He talks about seeing life from this eternal perspective.
Oh.
He's no longer attached to material possessions or these worldly concerns.
That shift in perspective, it's really, I think, a common thread in a lot of these NDE accounts. It's like they've glimpsed something so profound, so vast,
right,
that the everyday worries and the material pursuits they pale in comparison.
Right.
It prompts this reassessment of priorities, a focus on deeper meaning and values.
Yeah. It's like he's saying, okay, I've seen what truly matters.
Right.
And this stuff down here.
Yeah.
It's just not that important anymore.
Right. Exactly.
But as you might imagine, this transformation wasn't without its challenges.
Oh, okay.
He mentions that, he and his wife had to kind of rebuild their relationship.
Wow.
Almost from scratch.
That's a good reminder that even these extraordinary spiritual experiences can have very real down-to-earth consequences.
Totally. Yeah.
It really highlights that ripple effect, I think, of these events, not just on the person, but on the relationships as well. It's like they're both navigating this uncharted territory, trying to, reconcile their old life with this new perspective.
Right. It makes you realize that profound change, even positive change.
Yeah.
It can be really disruptive.
Yeah.
And it requires, adaptation and understanding from everyone involved.
Absolutely. And it really underscores, I think, the interplay between the spiritual and the mundane, right?
Yeah.
Even when we touch the infinite, we still have to come back to this earthly reality and figure out how to integrate those experiences.
So we've journeyed with Tom through his experience of dying, arriving in heaven, encountering Jesus,
right?
Even meeting his family in the afterlife.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
It's been a wild ride, to say the least.
And his story just raises so many fascinating questions.
Yeah, it really does.
Like, how did these experiences shape our understanding of life and death?
Right.
And the nature of consciousness?
Right.
What can we learn from those who claim to have ventured, beyond the veil?
Right.
And how can those insights then inform our own lives?
It's interesting, Tom's experience, it really makes you think about all the different ways we try to make sense of life and death.
Yeah.
Some people find comfort in traditional religious beliefs.
Right.
While others explore, different spiritual paths or philosophies.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But regardless of our individual beliefs, I think we all share that basic human curiosity about what happens after we die, right?
It's that age-old question, isn't it? Where do we go from here? And these near-death experiences, while we can't, definitively prove or disprove them,
right,
I think they offer, just this glimpse into that possibility, that potential window into what might lie beyond our earthly existence.
And they often leave us, I think, with more questions than answers.
Right.
But even those unanswered questions can be valuable. They can prompt us to to examine our own beliefs
Yeah.
and search for deeper meaning in our lives.
Exactly. It's like Tom's story kind of throws open the door to a whole realm of possibilities, you know, and it makes us confront our own ideas about, you know, heaven and hell and judgment and even the very nature of consciousness, you know. It's really
It's a lot to unpack.
yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
And it reminds us too that our understanding of these concepts is always evolving.
Right.
What we believe about the afterlife might change as we learn and grow.
Right.
You know, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay to question, to doubt,
Right.
to wrestle with these big ideas.
Right.
I think that's all part of the journey, isn't it?
Absolutely. So as we kind of wrap up our dive into Tom's experience,
Yeah.
you know, I'm left with this feeling of awe, but also almost a sense of responsibility, you know.
Yeah.
Like if I were to have a similar experience, what would I learn?
Right.
What would I bring back to share with the world?
That's a great question to ask ourselves.
Right.
You know, what message would we feel compelled to share?
Right.
Would it be a message of love, forgiveness, compassion, or maybe, you know, a message about the importance of living a life of purpose and meaning?
Yeah, and maybe the most important takeaway from all of this, you know,
Yeah.
isn't about knowing for sure what happens after we die.
Right.
But about how we choose to live our lives right now.
You know, I think you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Tom's story and countless others like it, I think, they really invite us to consider what truly matters.
Right.
It's this reminder, you know, to cherish our loved ones, to make the most of our time and to live in a way that reflects our values and our aspirations.
So even if we never have a near-death experience ourselves,
Right.
we can still, you know, learn from those who have and use those insights to guide our own journeys.
Absolutely.
You know?
And who knows, maybe by exploring these stories, by contemplating these big questions, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves, our place in the universe and that incredible potential of the human spirit.
Beautifully said. And that's a wrap on our deep dive into one man's extraordinary journey to heaven and back.
Yes.
We hope this conversation has sparked your curiosity and left you with some food for thought.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us.